Thanks everyone for coming back from the coffee break and for your conversations after the main event that's just happened. I'm sure you will join me in saying what a brilliant opportunity that was to celebrate just a very small piece of pieces of work that happened at Involve. And as I opened today, we had the opportunity to say about the innovation and creativity, and then we saw it firsthand. And I know that there's another 22 projects that we could spend all afternoon talking about and more on the wider impact and reach. So on behalf of the whole board and everyone here, a huge thank you for those that spoke and for your passion and your dedication to what you do. And I know it will continue with much debate afterwards. So we're now moving into the formal business of the 49th Annual General Meeting. Gary's told me I've only got 12 minutes, so we're going to see if we can beat it. Let's see if we can. Where we have to do some formal elements of the process in terms of our governance. Today, in terms of what will happen now, we have to go through a series of important steps, and there are a small number of trustees with us today and online, thank you for joining us, who are eligible to vote, to approve papers, and to make the decisions that we need to make, as trustees are also members of the organisation. You are all free to ask any questions, to ask any points in clarification, but when we do the formal business, I am going to go to the trustees. They are the only people that can vote. So I'll start with the welcome to everyone here, which I've done. Introductions, I won't make everyone introduce themselves, but if I ask our trustees in the room just to raise your hand so you can see our trustees. There you go, that's our trustees. And we do have a trustee who will be both voted onto the board in a second, who is Multi, who will just identify herself now. There you go. And online you can see everyone behind me, so they're our trustees that have been able to join us today. So there's a couple of bits of business I have to just cover off. So the first is, since our last AGM, we have a resignation to note. That is of trustee Christina Hickson, who resigned recently after a tenure with Involve, providing expertise in safeguarding. So I'd like to take a moment just to acknowledge that tenure and the work of Christina. And Gary mentioned he is now the Chief Exec of Involve. So we welcome you formally to your first AGM as our fully appointed Chief Exec, and thank you for your presentation today and look forward to that lasting for many years to come. So welcome, Gary, formally. So today I need to do the first element of business, which is to present the annual report. For those of you online, I think you've received a copy electronically. I'm holding it like it's an encyclopedia, a brochure, which sets out a wonderful journey of amazing things that happen. And a lot of the points that are in here have been touched on already today in relation to the reach and services. So I need one of my trustee colleagues to propose the annual report for consideration. If I could ask somebody to propose. Thank you. And then a seconder to that proposal. Thank you there. And I'm just checking we're getting that on the camera, aren't we, in terms of for the minutes. Thank you. So that has been adopted as our annual impact report. Thank you. Equally, to members of the board, we circulated the minutes of the 48th General Meeting, which was held on the 18th of January 2024. Not that long ago, but it feels like an awfully long time ago. Again, if I can ask for a trustee to propose the minutes for adoption. Thank you, we've got that. And then somebody to second. Thank you. Hopefully you've got that. Did you get Duncan seconding that? So Duncan seconded that, thank you. So I'm now going to hand over to Duncan Simmons, who is our Treasurer, to present the report, key facts, and put it forward for adoption. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Duncan Simmons. I'm the Treasurer, and my job falls to looking after the numbers. It's my background because I work for a bank. Numbers can be a little bit boring, so we always make sure we keep the numbers before us, but the most important thing is the impact on the end user of the service. So those of trustees here that will know whenever we have meetings to talk about finance, I'm always more interested in the impact of the spend rather than how much we've spent, although how much we spent is really important. Those of you that have the impact report, page 18 is where I'm taking my numbers from. I haven't written lots of notes. The key facts are we had an income in the year of just over 6.4 million, and we spent about 5.2 million. So that's the right way around. For those of you that are good at maths, we've actually not spent as much as we had in. You may ask, well, what's happened to the difference? We have reserves as an organisation. We have to keep reserves to make sure that we can continue to do the work we do, and we can continue to deliver on our strategy. we also have to consider the future landscape in terms of financing to make sure we can spend our money in the right places. So our reserves have been increased quite nicely in the last year, but there are two particular grants that have been made to us that I have to show in our reserves, 480,000 and 250,000, monies that we've received by way of a grant that will be spent over the next, I think, a 4-year period. Joe, correct me if I'm wrong. So they are quite a significant lump that we didn't have a year ago. So we're in a very healthy position. When we manage our finances, it's important that we look at where we get our money from and what we spend our money on. One of our challenges is that the majority of our income comes under contracts. So once it's won, we know exactly what it's going to be. It's not going to go up, it's not going to go down unless we fail to deliver. So 86% of our income was contract income. We can't really control that once it's been won. Expenditure, like any big organisation, our biggest overhead is salaries. Our salary bill is 73% of everything we spend. So again, can't really control that. We have awarded pay rises, like all organisations, but we can't reduce it short of cutting services. So the bit we talk about when we meet as a finance subgroup is the 27% of expenditure that we can control. And for reference, for governance purposes, we meet as a finance subgroup of trustees. It's a small group of trustees once a month, where Gary and Joe and the senior team are involved, present to us the numbers. As Gary has said, there are 26 different departments, parts of the team. The management accounts, which Joe pulls together, are a work of art. They give us great sight through everything that's being spent monthly. And the trustees at attending finance subgroup every month will ask questions and challenge, what's this? Why is that out of line? Should we reforecast? Should we rebudget? And we also look at expenditure by type across the whole organisation. So mobile phone bills, we wouldn't look at department by department, we'd look at it across the whole organisation. So we do provide that challenge on a monthly basis. We meet monthly, the board meets every other month, so those of trustees part of the finance subgroup I'm very grateful to for their additional time spent with me, usually on an online call, talking about how we're spending our money, where it's going, and helping the finance team with their direction of travel, remembering that it's not just about number crunching, it's about what this means to the end user. In terms of business from my point of view, I also want to mention that in the last year we have changed our auditors. We went through a tender process and changed from one auditor to our new auditors, Burgess Hodgson, who have been amazing. They've really supported us very well in their first year as our auditor. A good example of that is this AGM is in October, which is as early as we'd love to have it any year. In previous years, it was slipping later and later. In fact, last year it was in January, which was actually this year. So we've actually delivered, they've helped us deliver something much faster. They've also been very supportive of Joe and the finance team in managing some of the complexities of the finances, how we manage the management accounts, VAT, which is a complicated area. So they've done an excellent job. And one job that I have to do is to ask, firstly, that the trustees formally accept the accounts, which have been signed off by Richard as chair, have gone through a board meeting. Now we just need the trustees to vote that they are accepted as members of the organisation. So I do need 2 trustees for that. Can I have a nominator? Thank you, Deirdre. And a second? Can go online. If anyone online would like to put their hand up to second that. Thank you, Rachel, who's our vice chair. So that's the accounts formally adopted. The final piece is the reappointment of our auditors. So Burgess Hodgson has completed their first year as our auditors. I know from our meeting that they joined just recently that they are willing to stand again. I'd like to propose that we continue with Burgess Hodgson as our auditors. Again, I need a nomination and a second for that. Anyone on screen? Jonathan, hand up. And Richard as a second. Thank you. That concludes my part, unless anyone has a question on the numbers. And I'm very willing to answer that without the benefit of the numbers in front of me if I can. Excellent. Thank you very much. I'll pass back to Richard.
Did you think your account's going to be described as a work of art, Joe? There you go. You've got we'll have to have a look at that, and you can all make your judgment as they get published. So thank you very much for the formalities that have been covered there. So with the accounts being accepted and the auditors now being confirmed, we now have to deal with the election of our board directors by ordinary resolution. So I need to read out this resolution and then we're going to have to do a vote for members. So that includes those online. If I can ask if you are happy to vote as I go through each of the trustees, if you just put your hand up, we'll take a moment and check that you have done that. And it might be worth me asking Duncan to sit over here, because I'm told that that camera's picking up hands up for the minutes later on, which is a new way of doing things. So that's helpful. Are we in a good space for that? So I will read this in the way that I must. So to elect board directors by ordinary resolution, in accordance with Article 35, the board recommends the reappointment of the following board directors retiring under the rotation provision of Article 32 and who offer themselves for reappointment for a further 3-year term. We now need to vote for each individual, and the first person for re-election is Andy Fairhurst, who is online. If all board trustees could vote to say they confirm that. And online, if you could put your hands up or show your hand. Okay, I'll make that everyone. Thank you. The next is for Deirdre O'Donoghue. And online. Thank you. Mr. John Bennett, who has sent his apologies today. I should have said that at the beginning, but for re-election, John Bennett in the room and online. Thank you. And for Rachel Holweger, who is online in the room, please. And online, excluding Rachel. Thank you. So that I've taken it that all are in favour against the appointments. I just need to check with Gary a technicality. It does say that everyone should do all in favour or all not in favour. Because everyone raised their hand, we don't need to do all against, do we? That's fine. Okay, I'll just check that. So I'm guessing we've got all that covered off. So to recap that, for the 4 people that we've just read out, all trustees were in favour and there were none against that were present here today. And I'll just check, did we receive any proxy votes for anyone who's not here? No. Okay, thank you. So then the second part is to elect board directors by ordinary resolution. In accordance with Article 35, the board recommends the new appointment of the following board directors for a 3-year term. This is the appointment. The first is Malti Varshni. All in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you, and I'm guessing there's no against, and we haven't received any proxy votes as well for that. Thank you. So in terms of the overall numbers, that's all raised their hands. So, Malti, you're most welcome now. Formally, you are now a member of the involved board. I think you've been with us for just under 2 years, helping us as a co-opted member, just over a year and a bit. So thank you very much. You're most welcome to the board. So that concludes the formalities. I'm just checking with Gary as my conscience that I've done everything I should do. Thank you. That does deal with the formal business of AGM. Not quite 12 minutes, but not far off. I'll just go over now to any other business or questions or comments from the audience that anyone wants to make or online. Okay, I think we're now complete, in which case I'll hand you back to Gary. Do you want to do a final few, or are you done? You can if you want. There you go. You're the chief exec. I'll let you. I'm going to hand you back to Gary to say a final few words. Thanks very much.
To say thank you all so much for coming. I think these events are so much better when we're looking at lots of real people. There's lots of food left still outside, so please do. We have this booked till 5 o'clock, so please do stay here, drink coffee, eat sandwiches, and talk to each other. We're all about connecting people, so the more we connect people after this AGM, the better. I hope you've enjoyed it. We've really enjoyed presenting our work to you. So thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Thank you.